Rain had been falling over Seattle for 11 straight days when Mia Bennett finally understood that the black SUV across from her apartment was not leaving. It arrived every evening at exactly 9:17. Never 9:16. Never 9:18. The vehicle would glide into the same parking space beneath a dying street lamp, its windows dark enough to reflect the glowing signs of the Vietnamese restaurant on the corner. It would remain there through the night, engine occasionally humming, windshield wipers cutting through the rain in slow, measured strokes. At dawn, it disappeared. The first night, Mia assumed it belonged to a neighbor. The second night, she told herself it was a rideshare driver waiting for someone. By the sixth night, she had stopped turning on the lamp beside her living room window. By the 12th, she had begun checking the locks 3 times before bed. Tonight was the 23rd night. Mia stood behind the thin curtain of her third-floor apartment, one hand gripping the fabric, the other holding a kitchen knife she knew she would probably be too frightened to use. She could not see anyone inside the SUV. Only darkness, only rain, only the faint red glow of the dashboard. Her apartment was small enough that the radiator clicked beside her bed, and the scent of the soup she had cooked still lingered in every room. There was no marble staircase, no armed security at every door, no polished silver laid out for men who spoke softly about terrible things. There was no Dante Vescari. That was supposed to make her feel safe. Instead, every night at 9:17, the black SUV arrived. Mia stepped away from the window. Her bare feet made no sound against the worn hardwood. She had changed after work into a loose gray sweater and soft black pants, clothes that settled comfortably around her fuller body. Her dark hair was gathered in a careless knot, and there was flour on one sleeve from helping the elderly baker downstairs prepare tomorrow's bread. No one looking at her would have mistaken her for the kind of woman a dangerous man might follow. That thought should have comforted her. It did not. A sharp sound came from the alley, metal scraping against brick. Mia froze. The knife tightened in her hand. Another sound followed, then a low male voice, barely audible beneath the rain. She moved toward the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The building's overhead light flickered once, then went out. Her breathing stopped. Mia backed away. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet, every familiar object transformed by darkness. The second-hand couch, the stack of library books, the chipped blue mug beside the sink, the framed photograph of her father she kept on the shelf. Her phone vibrated on the counter. Unknown number. She stared at it until the buzzing stopped. A message appeared. Move away from the window. Now. Cold rushed through her. She looked toward the rain-streaked glass. Across the street, the black SUV's headlights turned on. At the same instant, the building's front door crashed open below. Footsteps thundered into the lobby. More than one person. Moving fast. Mia did not scream. She had learned inside the Vescari mansion that fear was often loudest when it remained trapped in the body. She ran toward the bedroom. A heavy impact struck her apartment door. The chain jumped. Another hit splintered the frame. Mia reached for the fire escape window. Before she could open it, a deafening crash came from the street. Tires screamed. Glass shattered. Someone shouted. Then came the unmistakable sound of bodies hitting metal. The pounding against her door stopped. For one breath, there was silence. Then the hallway erupted. Mia heard a man cry out, a brutal collision against the wall, and a voice she had spent 3 months trying to forget. Low, controlled, deadly calm. You came to the wrong door. Her knees nearly gave way. Dante. The apartment door burst inward. A masked man stumbled through the opening, but he never reached her. Dante Vescari appeared behind him like something pulled from the darkness itself. He wore a black overcoat soaked with rain, his dark hair plastered back from his forehead. Blood marked one side of his collar, though Mia could not tell whether it belonged to him. His face held none of the polished detachment he wore during meetings at the mansion. This face was colder, furious, terrified. He drove the attacker into the wall and turned immediately toward Mia. His eyes moved over her body with ruthless precision, checking for injury. Mia. She stared at him. The knife slipped from her fingers and struck the floor. Dante crossed the room in 3 steps, but stopped before touching her. He always stopped. Even now, with danger in the hallway and rain streaming from his coat, he held himself 1 inch away from the woman he had secretly watched every night. Are you hurt? Her throat tightened. "You were in the SUV." His expression did not change. Outside the apartment, one of his men shouted that the rear staircase was clear. Mia barely heard it. "You were there every night." Dante's jaw hardened. "Mia, we need to leave." "Every night?" His silence answered her. Something inside her cracked, not because she was afraid of him, but because part of her had known. Part of her had felt his presence in the rain. She stepped backward. "You followed me. I protected you. I left you. I noticed." The words were quiet, but the pain beneath them struck harder than anger. A shadow moved at the broken doorway. Dante turned, drawing Mia behind him with one arm just as another attacker appeared at the end of the hall. The next few seconds dissolved into motion. Dante's men surged forward. The hallway light flashed back to life. Mia saw rain blowing through the stairwell, dark coats, overturned furniture, and the cold concentration on Dante's face as he placed himself directly between her and every threat. He did not look at the men coming toward him. He looked only at Mia. "Stay behind me." It was the same command he had given her 3 months earlier, on the night she realized the mansion where she worked was not simply owned by a wealthy businessman. It was ruled by a mafia boss. And now the world she had escaped had come to her door. 3 months earlier, Mia Bennett had been standing in the grand dining room of the Vescari estate, polishing fingerprints from a table large enough to seat 20 people who never laughed. She had worked at the mansion for 11 months, long enough to understand its silences, long enough to recognize which doors were never opened, which visitors arrived without names, and which stains the staff pretended not to notice. She had not entered the job knowing who Dante Vescari was. The employment agency had described him as a private investor who traveled frequently and required discretion. The salary was nearly twice what Mia had earned cleaning hotel rooms, and it included a small bedroom in the West Wing. She needed the money. Her father's medical debts had followed her for years after his death, and Mia had spent most of her 20s learning how expensive grief could be. At first, Dante was only a distant figure. He left before sunrise and returned after midnight. When he crossed a room, conversations stopped without anyone being told. He wore dark suits without visible labels and carried power so naturally that he never needed to display it. The other employees feared him. Mia tried not to think about him at all. That became difficult when she noticed he never ate breakfast. Every morning, she found the coffee untouched and the food cold. On a winter Tuesday, frustrated by the waste, she carried a plate directly into his study without permission. Dante had been standing beside the window, speaking to 3 men in Italian. The conversation ended the moment she entered. Every face turned toward her. Mia nearly dropped the tray. She was not glamorous enough to recover from embarrassment elegantly. Her cheeks flushed easily. Her housekeeping uniform fit too tightly around her hips, and a strand of hair had escaped her bun. Dante stared at her. No one entered his study uninvited. Mia knew that now. She set the tray down anyway. "You need to eat." One of the men looked at her as though she had announced her own execution. Dante's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do I?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because yesterday's breakfast went untouched, and so did the one before that." Mrs. Olden blamed the kitchen staff. The men remained completely still. Mia folded her hands in front of her. "It isn't fair to make people feel they've failed when you simply refuse to take care of yourself." Dante studied her for so long that she could hear the clock above the fireplace. Then he looked at the men. "Leave." They obeyed instantly. Mia's confidence disappeared with them. Dante approached the tray. "You entered a private meeting to criticize my eating habits. I came to protect the kitchen staff." "From me?" "From being dismissed for something that isn't their fault." A faint, unreadable expression crossed his face. "Are you always this reckless?" "Only before lunch." He almost smiled. Almost. Then his gaze fell to the meal. "Sit." Mia blinked. "I'm working. So won't we?" "I don't think we do the same kind of work." "No," he said quietly. "We do not." He ate half the breakfast, while she reorganized books on the opposite side of the room. The following morning, the plate was empty. That was how it began. Not with desire, not with confession, with breakfast. Dante started appearing in rooms where Mia worked. He would sit in the library while she dusted shelves, reading documents he never seemed to turn. He began returning to the mansion before dinner. He asked the chef to prepare the soup Mia liked when Seattle's winter storms grew worse. He never said these things were for her. Dante Vescari did not explain himself. Mia learned him through details. He disliked music during meals but tolerated the old jazz station when she worked in the kitchen. He remembered the names of every employee's children, though he pretended not to care about them. He slept less than 4 hours a night. When he was angry, he became quieter, not louder. And when Mia laughed, his attention found her no matter who else was in the room. She noticed. She wished she had not. Mia was not accustomed to being watched by men like Dante. Men looked through her, around her, or at the prettier woman standing nearby. She had made peace with that years ago. She was short, soft around the waist, and plain in a way no expensive dress could disguise. Her face was round, her nose slightly crooked from a childhood fall, and worry had placed faint lines near her mouth before she turned 30. Dante looked at her as if none of that diminished her. Sometimes he looked at her as if it made her more dangerous. One evening, Mia found him alone in the ballroom, after a formal gathering. The guests had left. Crystal glasses remained on silver trays. Rain pressed against the high windows. Dante stood beside the piano, removing blood from his knuckles with a white handkerchief. Mia stopped in the doorway. He covered his hand. "You should not be here. This is where I work. Not tonight." She saw a broken glass near the fireplace and a dark stain on the carpet. Her pulse quickened. "What happened?" "Nothing that concerns you. You're bleeding. It isn't serious." She brought the first aid box from the kitchen. Dante watched her place it on the piano. "Mia, sit down." His gaze sharpened. "No one gives me orders in my home. Then bleed on the piano. I'm sure it's very expensive." For several seconds, neither moved. Then Dante zut. Mia cleaned the cut across his knuckles. His hand was larger than hers, warm and motionless in her grip. The air between them became unnaturally still. She felt his eyes on her face. "Does this frighten you?" he asked. "The blood?" Mia's fingers paused. "Yes." The honesty surprised him. "Yet you stayed. You're injured." "That is not an answer." She wrapped gauze around his hand. "You frighten everyone. I asked about you." Mia lifted her eyes. Dante's face was close enough that she could see the exhaustion beneath his control. "You frighten me," she repeated. "But not always for the reasons you think." His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth. The ballroom doors opened. A man entered without waiting. Dante Vescari. Dante's cousin was younger by 4 years, handsome in the polished way magazines favored, with warm brown hair and an easy smile that never reached his eyes. He took in the scene, Mia standing between Dante's knees, holding his bandaged hand. Something knowing entered his expression. "I apologize," Gabriel said. "I did not realize the household service had become so personal." Mia immediately stepped away. Dante rose. The temperature in the room seemed to fall. "Speak about her that way again," Dante said, "and you will lose the privilege of speaking at all." Gabriel smiled, but from that night forward, he watched Mia differently. The truth about Dante's world arrived slowly, then all at once. Mia overheard names whispered by the staff. She saw news reports about missing businessmen who had dined at the mansion days earlier. She found a bullet embedded in the wood, behind a painting in the east corridor. Then, one freezing night, she went into Dante's study to close the windows and found a man kneeling on the floor. His hands were bound. Dante stood over him. 4 armed men surrounded the room. Mia froze in the doorway. The kneeling man looked at her with desperate eyes. Dante turned. For the first time since she had known him, real alarm broke through his expression. "Mia, leave." The prisoner lunged. One of the guards raised his weapon. Dante moved faster. He crossed the room, seized Mia around the waist, and pulled her behind the marble wall as the sound of violence shattered the study. Mia buried her face against his chest. His arm locked around her. "Stay behind me." When the room became quiet, Dante still did not release her. She could feel his heart pounding. Not from fear for himself, for her. That frightened Mia more than the violence. He took her to a private sitting room and poured her water with hands that never shook. She did not drink it. "What are you?" Dante stood across from her, his face once again unreadable. "You know." "Say it." He remained silent. "Say it, Dante." His eyes darkened at the sound of his name. "I lead the Vescari organization." "The organization? You may call it whatever makes you understand." "Mafia." "Yes." The word changed the shape of the room. Mia stared at the man she had bandaged, argued with, and slowly begun trusting. "How many people have you hurt?" Dante's jaw tightened. Enough that you should leave this room. That is not what I asked. No answer will make you feel safe. Try me. He came closer, but not too close. I have done things you would never forgive. She hated the quiet grief in his voice. Then why did you let me stay here? Because I believed you knew nothing. And now? Now I know you know too much. Mia's face lost color. Dante saw it. His expression shifted. I will not harm you. How can I believe that? You can't. The honesty hurt more than a lie. Dante stepped toward her, then stopped himself. But I would destroy anyone who tried. That night, Mia locked herself in her room. At dawn, she packed one suitcase. She intended to leave without speaking to him. Dante was waiting in the entrance hall. He stood at the base of the staircase in a dark suit, his injured hand still wrapped in the bandage she had tied. Behind him, the mansion seemed endless and cold. I prepared a car, he said. Mia tightened her grip on the suitcase. I can take the bus. No, you don't decide that. Not tonight. Are you going to stop me from leaving? The question landed between them. Dante looked at her for a long moment. No. She had expected anger. Possession. Comment. His restraint hurt worse. Mia descended the final step. Dante moved aside. She passed him, then stopped at the door. Was any of it real? His voice came quietly behind her. Everything I allowed myself to feel was real. She turned. That is not the same as honesty. No. Why did you hire me? The smallest hesitation betrayed him. Mia saw it. A new wound opened inside her. Don't you? He looked toward the windows. Your father worked for my family. Mia stopped breathing. My father repaired boats. Before that, he was an accountant. For my uncle. Her suitcase slipped from her fingers. Dante continued, each word measured. Your father discovered financial records connecting my family to judges, officials, and several rival organizations. He copied them before he disappeared. My father died in a car accident. That is what you were told. Mia's eyes burned. What are you saying? I am saying his death was not an accident. The entrance hall seemed to tilt. Dante moved toward her instinctively. She stepped back. He stopped. You hired me because of him. At first, to search my things, to discover whether he left something with you. Her face crumpled despite her effort to remain composed. Every quiet conversation, every empty breakfast plate, every night she had believed he saw something in her, no one else did. It had begun as surveillance. You used me. Yes. The word was nearly inaudible. Mia slapped him. The sound echoed through the hall. No guard moved. Dante's face turned slightly with the impact. When he looked back, there was no anger in his eyes. Only acceptance. I'm sorry, he said. She hated him for sounding sincere. You don't get to be sorry. I know. You made me feel safe in a house built on lies. I know. You let me care about you. His control broke for half a second. I did not let you. Mia's breath caught. Dante's Hase held hers. I tried to stop it. The confession almost destroyed her resolve. Almost. She picked up the suitcase. Don't follow me. Dante said nothing. Mia walked out into the rain. For 3 months, he honored the words in the only way a man like Dante understood. He never approached her. He never called. He never appeared at her workplace. He only sat across from her apartment every night until dawn. After the attack, Mia was taken not to the mansion, but to a hidden safe house on Bainbridge Island. The journey passed in silence. Rain blurred the city beyond the armored SUV. Dante sat opposite her, one hand pressed against a cut near his ribs. His men occupied the front seats, speaking quietly into radios. Mia stared at him. You're injured. It is superficial. You always say that. Dante's eyes met hers. For 1 second, they were back in the ballroom. Then he looked away. The safe house stood above a stormy stretch of coastline, hidden among cedar trees and black rock. It was smaller than the Vescari estate, but no less secure. With reinforced windows, underground rooms, and cameras covering every approach. Dante gave Mia the upstairs bedroom. He remained downstairs. She found him in the kitchen after midnight, attempting to close the wound beneath his shirt with one hand. Mia stopped in the doorway. Dante froze. You have medical staff, she said. They are on their way. You'll bleed through the floor before they arrive. I thought you no longer cared what I ruined. She should have walked away. Instead, she opened a cabinet and found the emergency supplies. Sit. Dante obeyed without argument. That frightened her more than defiance. Mia cleaned the injury. It was a long cut along his side, not deep enough to kill him but painful enough to make his breathing shallow. He removed his shirt. Scars crossed his chest and shoulders, some old and pale, others jagged reminders of a life Mia had never fully understood. She concentrated on the wound. You could have been killed tonight. So could you. You knew they were coming. I knew someone had located you. I did not know when they would move. So you sat outside? Yes. For 23 nights. 26. Mia looked up. The SUV was there for 23. The first 3 nights I parked farther away. Despite everything. Her eyes filled. You promised not to follow me. I promised not to interfere with the life you chose. You call this not interfering? You never saw me. That does not make it better. No. The answer robbed her of anger. Mia pressed gauze to his side. Dante's hand closed around the edge of the chair. Who sent them? I believe Gabriel. Your cousin? He wants control of the organization, and he thinks I have my father's evidence. Yes. Do I? Dante's gaze sharpened. I don't know. That is why you kept watching me. No. The immediate answer stopped her. Dante looked at her with a directness that made the room feel too small. I watched you because I could not sleep without knowing you were alive. Mia's hand became still against his skin. Rain struck the windows. Dante's voice lowered. I told myself it was security. Then I told myself it was guilt. By the 10th night, I stopped lying. She could feel his breath change. You sat in a car all night. Yes. Why didn't you come upstairs? You told me not to follow you. But you did. I stayed across the street. That is not a meaningful distinction. It was the only one I had left. The silence between them became painful. Dante lifted one hand as if he intended to touch her face. He stopped before his fingers reached her. Mia noticed. He lowered his hand. Finish the bandage, he said quietly. Then lock your door. The next morning, Mia woke to the sound of a child crying. She opened the bedroom door. A small girl stood in the hallway wearing a red raincoat over pajamas, clutching a stuffed rabbit against her chest. She could not have been older than 6. Behind her stood one of Dante's guards, looking helpless. This is Sophia, the guard explained. Her mother was caught in the attack last night. Mia crouched carefully. Is she hurt? The girl shook her head. My mom said Mr. Vescari would keep me safe. Mia looked toward the staircase. Dante stood below. His expression revealed nothing, but his hand tightened on the railing. Sophia's mother, Elena Ruiz, had worked for the Vescari organization as a financial analyst. She had uncovered Gabriel's plan and attempted to warn Dante. Gabriel's men intercepted her before she could reach the safe house. Elena was alive, but missing. Sophia had been hidden with a neighbor until Dante's men could retrieve her. The child changed everything. For the next 2 days, the storm trapped them inside the safe house while Dante's organization searched for Elena. Mia cared for Sophia because no one else knew how. Dante watched from doorways. He watched Mia braid the girl's hair at the kitchen table. He watched her turn couch cushions into a fortress when thunder shook the windows. He watched her sleep beside Sophia after a nightmare, one hand resting protectively over the child's back. On the 3rd evening, Mia entered the kitchen and found Dante making hot chocolate. He was failing badly. There was powder on the counter and milk boiling over the stove. Mia stuttered. The most feared man in Seattle cannot operate a saucepan. Dante turned down the heat. I have people for this. You sent them outside. Sophia does not trust them. She trusts you. She trusts that I will return her mother. That is not the same thing. No. Mia took the spoon from his hand. Their fingers touched. Neither moved. Dante's gaze dropped to the contact. Mia pulled away first. You should sleep, she said. So should you. I'm not the one sitting outside apartments until sunrise. A trace of emotion crossed his face. Do you want an apology? I don't know what I want. Dante's voice softened. I know. Sophia entered in bare feet and looked between them. Are you married? Mia nearly dropped the spoon. No. Dante answered at the same time. Not yet. Mia turned slowly. Dante remained perfectly calm. Sophia smiled for the first time since arriving. Mia pointed the spoon at him. Do not manipulate a frightened child. I gave her an honest answer. You gave her an impossible one. Dante's eyes held hers. I have accomplished more difficult things. The moment should have felt absurd. Instead, Mia's heart betrayed her. Later that night, She found a hidden surveillance room behind the safe house library. Dozens of screens covered one wall. Most displayed exterior cameras. 4 were different. One showed the entrance to Mia's apartment building. Another showed the bakery where she worked. A third showed the bus stop she used each morning. The fourth displayed photographs. Mia walking through Pike Place Market. Mia carrying groceries. Mia reading beside her apartment window. Mia laughing with the baker downstairs. Her stomach turned. Dante appeared behind her. She did not look at him. You photographed me. For security. There are hundreds. I know. How long? Since you left. She faced him. This is obsession. Yes. No denial. No excuse. The blunt admission unsettled her. You don't get to call control protection. I know the difference. Do you? Dante stepped into the room but kept his distance. If I wanted control, you would never have left the estate. The quiet truth chilled her. He could have stopped her. He had not. I watched because Gabriel knew you mattered to me, he continued. The moment you walked away, you became vulnerable. So this is my fault? Dante's expression hardened. No, it is mine. Because you cared? Because I allowed someone to see it. Mia folded her arms over herself. You speak about love as though it is a tactical error. I do not speak about love. No. You just sit outside in the rain for 26 nights. His eyes darkened. That was not love. What was it? Survival. The answer silenced her. Dante came closer. When you lived in my house, the rooms changed when you entered them. People ate together because you insisted. The staff stopped trembling. I slept. I began returning home before midnight because I knew you would be there. His control remained, but only barely. When you left, the house became what it had been before you. Efficient, silent, dead. Mia could not look away. Dante stopped within reach. I could survive your hatred. I could survive never touching you. I could survive watching you build a life with someone else. His jaw tightened at the last words. But I could not survive waking to learn I had failed to keep you alive. Mia's eyes burned. That is not healthy. No. It is not romantic. No. It frightens me. It should. His honesty broke something open between them. Mia lifted one hand. For a moment, she almost touched the scar near his jaw. Then alarms erupted through the safe house. Dante turned instantly. Red emergency lights flooded the hallway. A guard's voice came over the intercom. Boats approaching from the western shore. Dante reached for Mia. This time, he did not stop himself. His hand closed around hers. Get Sophia. The attack began from the water. Black boats cut through the storm below the cliffs while a second team moved through the cedar forest. The safe house windows darkened as steel shutters descended. Dante led Mia and Sophia into an underground passage. The child clung to Mia. Explosions shook dust from the ceiling. At the final security door, Dante stopped. You'll continue through the tunnel with Marco. Mia looked at the guard waiting ahead. You're not coming. I need to hold the entrance. No. Dante's gaze snapped to hers. Mia, you have 20 men. I have 14. Then come with us. If they breach the house before you reach the boat, you die. And if you stay, his silence answered her. Mia moved closer, anger cutting through fear. You do not get to decide your life is worth less because you feel guilty. This is not guilt. Then what is it? Dante looked at her as gunfire echoed overhead. Devotion. The word left no room to breathe. He placed one hand against the side of her face. It was the first time he had touched her with tenderness. His thumb rested beneath her eye. I have no right to ask you to forgive me, he said. But I need you to live long enough to hate me properly. Then he kissed her forehead and closed the steel door between them. Mia stood frozen until Sophia cried out. The tunnel lights flickered. Marco urged them forward. They reached the underground dock 10 minutes later. A boat waited beneath the cliffs. But something felt wrong. Marco had been with the Vescari family for 20 years. Mia had seen him at the mansion every day. She had never once heard Dante call him by his first name. And yet, before sealing the tunnel, Dante had said, continue with Marco, not to the guard. Tomia. A warning hidden inside familiarity. Mia looked at the man guiding them. His hand rested inside his coat. Sophia, she said softly, come stand beside me. Marco smiled. Keep moving. Mia stopped. You work for Gabriel. The smile vanished. Marco drew a weapon. Mia moved before fear could stop her. She shoved Sophia behind a concrete pillar and slammed the emergency lever beside the dock. A metal gate crashed down between them. Marco fired. The shot struck the gate. Mia grabbed Sophia and ran toward the service stairs as Marco shouted behind them. They emerged outside into freezing rain. The forest burned near the safe house. Dante's men fought along the cliff road. Mia saw a black SUV near the trees, engine running. She pulled Sophia toward it. A man stepped from the darkness. Dante Vescari. He wore no coat despite the storm, his expensive suit darkened by rain. 2 men stood behind him. "Well done," Gabriel said. "Dante always underestimated how intelligent you are." Mia placed herself in front of Sophia. "Where is her mother?" "Alive for the moment." "What do you want?" Gabriel smiled. "The same thing Dante wanted when he hired you. My father's records. Your father was a cautious man. He knew he would be killed. He hid the evidence somewhere only you could access. I don't know where." "You do. You simply don't remember." Gabriel reached into his pocket and removed a small brass compass. Mia's breath stopped. It had belonged to her father. She had not seen it since the night he died. Gabriel opened the back. Inside was a photograph of Mia as a child, standing beside a rusted fishing boat. The name painted on the hull was barely visible. Mercy Bell, her father's last boat. Mia had believed it was destroyed years ago. Gabriel watched recognition enter her face. There it is. A roar came from the burning safe house. Dante emerged through the smoke. Blood marked his temple. His shirt was torn beneath his coat. Behind him, 3 men followed. Gabriel's guards aimed toward him. Dante did not slow. His eyes found Mia. Everything else disappeared from his face except rage. Gabriel placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. Dante stopped. The storm moved around them. "Let them go," Dante said. "You know what I want. You want my organization. I want what should have been mine. You were never strong enough to hold it." Gabriel's smile faded. "And yet I found the one weakness you could not hide." His hand shifted from Sophia toward Mia. Dante's voice became lethal. "Touch her, and this ends before you take your next breath." Gabriel laughed. "You sat outside her apartment every night. Do you understand how pathetic that looked? The great Dante Vescari, ruler of half the coast, sleeping in a car because an ordinary housekeeper refused to love him." Mia saw Dante absorb the insult without reaction. Gabriel continued, "She is not beautiful. She has no influence, no family worth bargaining with, nothing that should matter to a man like you." Dante's expression changed, not with embarrassment, with something far more dangerous. "You mistake rarity for appearance," he said. "That is why you will always destroy what you cannot understand." His eyes remained on Mia. She walked into a house built on fear and made people feel human inside it. She saw exactly what I was and still demanded I become better. There is nothing ordinary about her. Mia's heart broke open. Gabriel's face twisted. He raised his weapon toward Dante. Mia moved. She shoved Sophia down as the night erupted. Dante crossed the distance through rain and smoke. His men engaged Gabriel's guards. Mia crawled behind the SUV with Sophia, shielding the child beneath her body. A figure appeared around the vehicle. Marco. He seized Mia by the hair and pulled her upright. She fought, striking his chest and clawing at his arm. He dragged her toward the cliff edge. Dante saw. The control left him. He abandoned Gabriel and ran toward her. Marco raised his weapon. Mia heard the shot. Dante's body struck hers. They fell together behind the SUV. For one terrible second, Mia thought he had been hit. Then Dante rose. What followed was fast, brutal, and final. He drove Marco away from her, disarmed him, and ended the threat with a coldness Mia could barely watch. When he turned back, blood ran from his shoulder. Mia reached for him. Dante staggered. She caught him before he fell. He was too heavy, but she held on, lowering him against the side of the SUV. "No," she whispered. "No, you don't get to do this." His face had gone pale. "Sophia." "Safe." "You?" "I'm fine." His hand searched for hers. Mia gripped it. Across the clearing, Gabriel attempted to flee toward the shore. Elena Ruiz appeared from behind one of the boats, bruised but alive. She struck him with a metal flare gun and sent the burning signal into the sky. Red light illuminated the storm. Dante's remaining men surrounded Gabriel. The war ended beneath a crimson sky, but Mia barely saw it. Dante's eyes were closing. She pressed both hands against his wound. "Stay with me." He looked at her as if memorizing her face. "I'm sorry," he breathed. "Stop apologizing. For your father, we'll talk about that later. For bringing you into this. Later. For loving you badly." Mia's tears mixed with the rain. "You have loved me terribly." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Yes, but you are going to stay alive long enough to learn another way." His eyes searched hers. "Is that an order?" "Yes." Dante's fingers tightened weakly around her hand. "Then I will obey." The Mercy Bell was found 3 days later, in a private warehouse, near Ballard Harbor. Mia's father had hidden the records beneath a false panel inside the captain's cabin. The files documented decades of corruption, murder, bribery, and alliances between criminal families. They also contained a letter addressed to Mia. She read it beside Dante's hospital bed. He had undergone 2 surgeries. The doctors said he would recover, though he remained pale beneath the luxury room's muted lights. Mia sat in the chair beside him, the letter trembling in her hands. Her father explained that years earlier, a young Dante had discovered his uncle planned to kill him for copying the records. Dante had tried to help him escape. The attempt failed. Mia's father was forced off the road, but before he died, he made Dante promise one thing: "Protect my daughter from this world." Mia lowered the letter. Dante was awake. "You knew?" "Yes. You hired me because of the evidence. At first, and because of the promise." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the promise did not make me innocent." "No." Dante looked toward the window. Rain moved gently down the glass. "My uncle ordered your father's death. I killed him 2 years later and took control of the organization. But revenge did not bring your father back." Mia folded the letter. "You were 21. Old enough. You have spent your entire life punishing yourself. I have spent my life ensuring no one could do to another family what was done to yours. By becoming feared. Yes, by becoming worse." Dante did not defend himself. Mia stood and moved beside the bed. His gaze followed her. "You cannot undo what you have done," she said. "And I cannot pretend the darkness around you does not exist. I know, but my father trusted you with me. He should not have. He trusted the part of you that tried to save him." Dante's eyes closed briefly. Mia reached for his hand. He looked down at their joined fingers. "I am releasing the records," she said. His face remained calm. "They will destroy the organization. Yes. They may send me to prison. I know. Dante studied here. And you still came here. I came because loving someone does not mean protecting them from consequences." Something like pride entered his expression. "I would expect nothing less. With Gabriel's testimony and Elena's files, the authorities may offer you an agreement if you dismantle the network and cooperate." "You arranged this?" "I spoke to a federal prosecutor." Dante almost smiled. "My former housekeeper has negotiated the end of my empire from beside my hospital bed. You always underestimated the staff." "I never underestimated you." She looked at him. "No. You simply lied to me, watched me without permission, manipulated my employment, and developed a deeply alarming attachment. That is accurate. You will never sit outside my apartment all night again." His expression grew serious. "Because I will be inside?" Mia stared at him. He waited. Despite herself, a laugh escaped her. It was small and broken, but real. Dante's face softened in a way she had never seen. Mia leaned closer. "This is not forgiveness. I know. It is not a promise. I know. It is an opportunity." "For what?" "To learn how to love someone without imprisoning them." Dante lifted her hand to his lips. "Tell me the rules. First, no surveillance." His brow tightened. "Mia, no surveillance. Visible security? Only when necessary. It is always necessary." "Dante," he exhaled. "We will negotiate. Second, you do not make decisions for me, even dangerous ones. Especially dangerous ones. I dislike that rule. I expected you would." "And the third?" Mia looked at the man who had terrified a city, protected her from the shadows, betrayed her trust, and nearly died, proving that his devotion was more than possession. "The third rule is that you tell me the truth, even when you believe it will make me leave." Dante became still. "That is the most dangerous rule." "I know." He touched her cheek carefully, giving her enough time to pull away. She did not. "I love you," he said. "No performance. No command. Only truth." Mia's eyes filled. You do not get to say that as though it fixes everything. It fixes nothing. Good. But it is true. She bent and kissed him. It was not the kiss of a woman surrendering to power. It was the kiss of a woman choosing a wounded, dangerous man with open eyes and demanding that he become worthy of the choice. 6 months later, the Vescari mansion no longer belonged to the Mafia. The federal investigation dismantled the organization piece by piece. Judges resigned. Police officials were arrested. Rival families fled the coast. Dante surrendered control of every illegal operation and testified against the men who had helped build the empire. He avoided prison through a cooperation agreement, though he lost most of his fortune and remained under strict federal supervision. The newspapers called it the collapse of the Vescari dynasty. Mia called it the first honest thing he had ever built. The mansion was converted into a residential center for women and children escaping dangerous homes. Elena Ruiz became its director. Sofia chose the color of every bedroom and insisted that no hallway should ever be dark. Mia returned only once before the renovation. She found Dante standing in the grand dining room, where she had first ordered him to eat breakfast. The enormous table had been removed. Dust floated through the afternoon light. "You're quiet," she said. "I am saying goodbye. To the house, to the man I was inside it." Mia approached. Dante no longer wore the perfectly tailored suits of an untouchable king. His dark sweater was simple, and the scar near his shoulder remained visible above the collar. He still carried danger. That would never fully disappear. But now it belonged to him rather than controlling him. Mia slipped her hand into his. "Do you regret it? The empire?" "Yes." "No." "The money?" "No." "The mansion?" Dante looked at her. "I regret the West Wing." She frowned. "Why?" "Your room was too far from mine." Mia rolled her eyes, but he drew her closer. "You are impossible. I am improving. Slowly. You agreed to patience. I agreed to opportunity." He kissed her temple. Outside, rain began tapping softly against the windows. 1 year after the night of the attack, Mia lived in a modest house overlooking Puget Sound. It had 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, and a porch that needed repairs. Dante could have afforded something larger with the legitimate investments he had retained, but Mia chose the house because the windows faced the water and the neighbors minded their own business. On stormy evenings, she baked bread with Sofia while Elena worked late at the center. Dante cooked badly and pretended not to notice when Mia corrected everything behind him. He still checked the locks twice. He still positioned himself between Mia and unfamiliar men. He still woke from nightmares with one hand reaching across the bed to make certain she was there. But he asked before assigning security. He told her where he was going. He never lied about danger. And he never sat across the street in a black SUV. On the anniversary of the attack, Mia came home from work and found one parked outside. She stopped beneath the porch light. Rain silvered the windshield. The engine was running. Her heart tightened with memory. Then the driver's door opened. Dante stepped out, wearing the same black overcoat he had worn the night he saved her. He crossed the street carrying an umbrella in one hand and a small velvet box in the other. Mia stared at the box. "No." Dante stopped. "No? You are not proposing in the rain beside that SUV. I had planned something more elaborate. What happened? You were late. So you panicked?" "I adapted." Mia folded her arms, though her eyes had already filled with tears. Dante came closer. The rain darkened his hair. "You once believed that vehicle meant someone was watching you," he said. "You were right, not helping. I believed love meant standing between you and every danger, even if you never knew I was there." Mia's expression softened. "I was wrong." Dante lowered himself onto one knee. The most feared man in Seattle knelt on wet pavement before a short, fuller-figured woman in a flower-marked coat while rain gathered on his shoulders. Mia covered her mouth. Dante opened the box. Inside was her father's restored brass compass, fitted around a simple diamond ring. "Love is not watching from across the street," he said. "It is standing beside you where you can see me. It is telling you the truth. It is letting you choose, even when your choice terrifies me." Mia's tears fell freely. Dante's voice lowered. "You left me once because I built my life on control. Everything worth keeping began when you walked away." He looked up at her with no empire, no guards, and no command left between them. "Mia Bennett, will you allow me to spend the rest of my life earning the right to come home to you?" She let him wait 3 seconds, long enough to remind him she could. Then she reached down, placed both hands around his face, and kissed him in the rain. Yes. Dante rose and lifted her from the pavement. Mia laughed against his mouth as he held her tightly, not caring that she was not light, delicate, or shaped like the women who once filled the mansion's formal parties. He carried her as though her softness was something precious, as though she were the only treasure his ruined empire had ever failed to deserve. Behind them, the black SUV remained empty. Across the water, Seattle glowed beneath the storm. And for the first time, Dante Vescari did not have to watch the woman he loved from the darkness. He walked beside her into the light,